right?
One more last point.
Yeah.
Speaking of rehashing, and you mentioned it earlier, storylines that will never die. Brandin Podziemski's part of this too. Like the people that are and there are a lot of them on Twitter and on our message board. And how did Brad Underwood see this guy every day in practice and recruit over him and not give him an opportunity? There's some of that reference to the current situation at point guard. Like, what if you bring in somebody at point guard, Sincere gets buried, or Ty doesn't play the minutes he wants, and or Dre Gibbs Lawhorn doesn't get what he thinks he should get as a freshman, and one of those guys leave or multiple leave, and one of them blossoms into a fantastic player, and you're kind of in that same situation. It's kind of the opposite Brandin Podziemski effect. If you were to say, I like the guys we got, I don't want to bury one of those guys, I want to play these dudes, and it pays off. Where the people have said, what happened to the development program? What happened to the ride with the guys you brought in recruited wise? And that's some of the knocks that Brad got for that. Then you could say, hey, he's kind of taking a little bit of a different angle with the point guard situation. I just think that is an interesting reference.
Yeah. And I find the dialogue around Brad Underwood just really interesting right now. Like, I get it. Like, he's got to win in the NCAA tournament. And until he does that, until they make a run, there's going to be a portion that's, there's going to be this weird dichotomy of this guy's taken us so far and look how far we've come. But he's not above criticism. The point guard situation is not above criticism. But I do find just this fan base is just so intense right now, and they're so passionate that they just want this extended run that they feel like they should have had the last couple of years, and they just haven't gotten to that point. So that's why there's so much angst around a team that's probably gonna be a top half Big Ten team. Returns two of the best players in the Big Ten. But yeah, adding the 19th overall draft pick, leaving your program as somebody who had under 70 minutes, Derek, and then is drafted 19th. Let's dive into that right now, shall we? You and I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but my takeaway from this, and I tweeted it, and people thought I was trying to take a shot at Underwood or thought I wasn't taking a shot at Underwood, and I should. Listen, that stings when a guy becomes the highest drafted former Illini basketball player, and since what, Darren Williams, or Myers Leonard.
Myers Leonard, yep.
That stings, but I also think it was a sign that Brandin Podziemski made a fantastic decision. I think more guys should consider transferring down and finding the role or the school that best fits for you, and going where Jalen Williams shined, and he was a great rookie for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it was a really smart decision by him. I think he needed the ball in his hands. I don't think he was going to get that at Illinois, and ultimately Illinois chose Sky Clark, which 99 out of 100 of us would have done at this time last year, and it ended up stinging Illinois. I mean, that's the way I look at it, because Sky Clark committed on April 7th. Brandin Podziemski transferred on April 13th.
Yeah, that was the last domino for Brandon to really see that backcourt was so crowded and nothing was really guaranteed. And he wanted to be told after barely playing as a freshman, hey, there's a pretty clear path for you to step into a much larger role. Illinois was not willing to at least assure him that was a guarantee. So they brought in Sky, they brought in Jaden, Sincere, and I think also you got to also consider, Terrence Shannon Jr. is part of that mix as well. And then who, even in hindsight, what Brandin Podziemski did, albeit 44% from three, and the numbers he put up at Santa Clara were ridiculous. It is a different level. Not to completely discount the WCC, because you got some good teams in there, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, but would he have had that same type of year in the Big Ten? I don't think anybody out there is necessarily saying that. Well, there are some people that probably would go that far, but I would disagree with them.
He has a skill set they certainly needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you saw, hindsight's easy. RJ Melendez having the year that he had. If you slotted in Brandon and how many open corner threes that RJ took and didn't make, if you give Brandin Podziemski those looks, he probably has a really nice year and provides such a great shooting role for a team that just didn't shoot it that well. And I do wonder, I think Brandon on the ball stuff is like what he wanted. I don't see him as a true point guard, although he admittedly, and seeing some of the NBA combine stuff, some of his assist numbers, decision-making and pick and rolls was more advanced than I thought it it would be for a guy as a sophomore. But yeah, it's just a tough one, and it's such a unique deal. Like I will reiterate, I've said it before. The first time Illinois ever saw him play in person was when he showed up to campus in June as an incoming freshman. They never went out and saw him because they couldn't. It was COVID. Nobody could recruit off campus. Everybody's evaluating on film and videos and highlight tapes to get posted on Twitter. And that's how he gets offers from Illinois, Kansas, Kentucky. Kansas and Kentucky aren't pushing at the end. So that part of it is there. The competition in high school was a question, and he didn't play all that well in practices and stuff in the summer. It was like, hey, this guy's got a big learning curve. So I understand it's not a great look. It's frustrating because of the need that he could have filled last year, but he did, like you said, you said it perfectly. I mean, he did the best thing for him. He found the role, the opportunity. He did it right for himself, and we'll see where he goes from here.
Listen, it sucks if you're an Illinois fan. It does. It absolutely does. But the conversation of he needed to play more as a freshman, we can go back and say, yeah, you should have played him over Curbelo. Who was doing that for a guy people were considering a preseason All-American, Derek, a guy that was the Big Ten Sixth Man of the Year as a freshman? Like, you weren't doing that at that point. Like Alfonso Plummer, Trent Frazier, DeMonte Williams, you won a Big Ten championship with that team. And listen, he gave a spark in the Northwestern game, but that's about it, right? It's not like when he came in there, it was like, oh, this guy's another level. And listen, I think he's going to the perfect spot for his skill set. Going to Golden State, basically going to play that Jordan Poole role with Steph and Clay and all those guys. Like, that's a perfect fit. If anybody else would have taken him 19, I think that would have been a bold call, because there's not a lot of guys who transfer down, become first-round picks, and have succeeded. I think Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo went over that, but phenomenal decision by Brandin Podziemski, and I'm happy for the kid. What a rise. It's really rare. Anything else to add on that hot topic besides it stinks for Illinois, but it seems like a lot of hindsight we're talking about? Like, listen, if Brad Underwood saw it in practice, or if it was that clear in practice, I think Brad Underwood would have rolled with him.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And it's a guy that works his butt off. I mean, he's obviously put himself in a situation through his work to be able to have the type of year that he had. And yeah, it helped that he went into a situation that wanted to give him a primary scoring option role. And he would not have had that at Illinois. He wouldn't have had that at a lot of high majors. I think it's a fair point that some have made that, hey, if Illinois messed up so bad, how come the other high majors like a Kansas or Kentucky or even others in the fold didn't bring him in and guarantee him what Illinois wouldn't? I think that is a situation where Santa Clara was the type of spot where they lose Jalen Williams. They needed somebody to come in and shoot a lot, and he took it and ran with it. So, I think it stinks for Illinois. I understand why they did what they did. Yes, maybe you don't. I don't know. Yeah, the Sky Clark thing, maybe if you don't bring in Sky and you kept Brandon and you said, hey, we're going to give you some minutes on the ball and we'll find a way to get you in there.
If anybody has a tweet or a text that said, this is a mistake, don't take Sky Clark, keep Brandin Podziemski, give Podz the ball. I don't know. I will shout you out on this podcast next. I'll reach you, whatever. Like, if you actually have that timestamp somewhere,
strong take.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a take.
But I don't know. I'm just hoping this one will die. This one can maybe now go away. But he's probably going to, like you said, the situation in Golden State, probably going to put him in a situation to put up some good numbers and look good, and then we'll only hear more gripes. But
I'm happy for Brandon. I'm happy for Daddy Podz, man. Happy for those guys. Daddy Podz always
on the jump. He didn't ask how high. He just jumped.
Yep. Yeah. Daddy Podz knew all along, man. Hey, good for him.
Daddy Podz got some good pub.